I wrote a little song to remind you Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? Alright. Bring a date, your team, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. Today's episode is sponsored by Duke Energy. Today I'm joined by 2 of my politics team colleagues, legislative and lobbying reporter Esther Frances and democracy reporter Kyle Ingram. It's summertime, which as everyone knows is about the beach and the North Carolina state budget. Maybe for some of us, for Under the Dome listeners, for sure. Let's start with probably the more fun/interesting things, which is the coastline and legislation that Esther has been covering about coastal seawalls and jetties and multiple things that they're called. So tell us, first of all, what's going on? What is a coastal seawall?
Definitely, for sure. So North Carolina's had a longstanding ban on a lot of these structures. Seawall, it's built parallel to the shoreline. It absorbs that wave energy, and environmentalists have said that it can increase erosion, though, on the front end of it. And North Carolina has had a longstanding ban on these kinds of structures, as well as jetties, which are perpendicular to the shoreline, as well as terminal groins, which are also perpendicular to the shore.
So what are they physically? Like, what are you talking about?
Yes, they are breakwaters. So they are used to diminish the strength of a wave, diminish the erosion that happens on a shoreline.
Okay.
Yeah, and these again, they've been pretty strictly banned. There have been a couple exceptions here and there, but they've been banned for pretty much the environmental purposes, saying that there's worse erosion that can happen up front. They can also disrupt beaches at higher altitudes because of just how the waves function and that kind of thing. So this bill was introduced by Senator Bob Brinson, and this would repeal completely that ban, but the bill would also instruct the Coastal Resources Commission to create rules and regulations for permitting and construction of these. So it wouldn't just be an outright ban and everyone can start building these now. It would be, as he describes it, it would be a pathway to being able to take care of some of this new erosion.
So we've seen, and I think the NNO, we've reported on, these videos of houses on the Outer Banks being taken into the ocean by the coast, by the tide. Mm-hmm. Is this a response to that?
Absolutely, for sure. And one thing that Brinson did point out in committee was that the National Weather Service reported 32 privately owned houses in North Carolina since 2020 have collapsed into the sea. So this would be a way to protect resources and also infrastructure like Highway 12 from the damaging effects of erosion.
How long? So Brinson is a Senate Republican. I believe he replaced former Kinston Senator Jim Perry. So maybe this is Brinson's second term or around there. First or second term. All the years run together in legislative time. But so are there, how many of these, or do you know how many already exist and when were they built? How old are they, the ones that are already there?
I know of a couple, and Brinson did also mention specific ones that were success stories, but there is a lot of opposition to this particular bill and repealing this. National Park Service says that seawalls can, obviously worsen erosion, like we had just talked about. The Audubon of North Carolina put out a statement too, saying that the structures are ineffective, that they only redirect and then worsen these erosion problems. Policy Director Zach Wallace wrote that it's like balancing a budget by moving debt onto someone else's books. So pretty profound there. And Senator Julie Mayfield, a Democrat, did bring up these sort of concerns in committee.
So I was reading your story so far, and Senator Jay Chartery mentioned beach nourishment. So how does that play into all of this, or does it?
For sure, yeah. Beach nourishment is another tactic that is used to sort of combat this ocean erosion. Beach nourishment is pretty much taking sand from one spot and moving it to another, trying to replenish the sand that was there. When Senator Chowdhury brought that up in committee, Senator Brinson sort of countered with, well, that doesn't do anything for the infrastructure that we're trying to protect here. So that would really only be a solution for that. And Brinson also really emphasized that this would be a piloting program. This would be limited. This would be just to see, what we could potentially do to combat some of this erosion, because he said he was tired of telling constituents on the coastline no to solving any sort of erosion problems.
People on the coast have strong opinions, as we've seen in the past with the Shrimpgate of yore. Nothing has been as controversial about our coastline yet. Anyway, beach nourishment is probably going to be the most visible thing if you're going to the Outer Banks this summer. I have been looking at the town of Nags Head's regular updates on when areas of the beach will be closed off while they move all that sand around, because the Outer Banks is essentially just a sandbar. So where do things stand right now with it?
So the bill has moved on. I believe it has moved on to either finance or rules. It's moved past committee at this point. And Senate Leader Phil Berger did say he was all for this. He said it was something that needs to be changed, updated. The policy is 40 years old. So he was he seemed very excited about this moving through.
So once you have, of course, the Senate leader support, that looks like that it'll be on the floor.
Definitely.
Maybe this new week, as people are listening to it, it may have already been calendared since we've recorded this. Okay, is there anything else that people should know about all of these hardened structures, as you described?
Yeah, for sure. That's sort of the umbrella category that all of these structures fit into. And yeah, I would just say that the Coastal Resources Commission did come out with a report on hardened structures and how they believe, either how they could be best used, or how they should be used, or how they shouldn't be used. There was a little bit of talk in committee about sort of the danger of putting out bills before this study has come out, but the study has come out now, so Brinson did say it would be part of the conversation as they moved forward.
Okay, so really, I feel like this week, unless something happened between when we're recording this and people are listening, the state budget is not going to happen this week, at least not go through all the way. I guess potentially it could come out at the end of the week, but probably not. So this week really is going to be a lot of flurry. As of Thursday, like the last Senate action day, the House finishes up its week on Wednesdays. The rest of us work through Friday, but or unless those who are off for the Juneteenth holiday, which is federal holiday but not state, so it's a floating holiday for state employees. So some state employees are off. Some weren't, but really, as we're waiting on the budget to move, there's this flurry of all kinds of things going on, and the Senate and House are taking up each other's bills, but they're also not particularly excited and ready to immediately pass any of their bills, which is what happened in the Senate voting session on Thursday, where I can't remember who the senator was, but they made a joke about like adding some gifts to it and then sending a bill back to the House. So we're kind of at that time of session where things are back and forth. To also talk about the budget, the top budget writers are basically done. They might still be involved a little bit at this point, but two of the longtime top Republican budget writers in the House, Representatives Dean Arp and Donnie Lambeth, talked to me and other press corps reporters about this is as of this past Wednesday, what's the latest on the budget? And they're basically done. So Lambeth described it as they've kicked up things to the corner offices, and the corner offices are Speaker Hall and Senate Leader Berger. And Lambeth described that there are about 5 pages, like a list of bullet points of things for Berger and Hall to sort out. And in past years, when it was Berger and former House Speaker Moore, a lot of times that list was much longer. Of course, I don't think that the top Republicans in both chambers have been fighting this long about like a budget where you're already on the next budget. Maybe they have. Listeners can remind me of anything that happened more than the 7 years that I've been covering the legislature. But Lambeth also talking to us reporters was saying how involved Democratic Governor Josh Stein has been, more so than former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper and former Republican Governor Pat McCrory, who Lambeth was also serving in the House when McCrory was governor. So that to me signals that this final budget that does come out obviously is going to have some stuff that Stein doesn't like because he's a Democrat and Republicans wrote it, and that's just what happens. But there'll be a lot of things that he's Stein is more agreeable to. And of course, the House budget proposal last year got a majority of votes from Democrats, and even Stein signaling that he supported it too. But there's still a lot to go. We are in the final negotiations between Berger and Hall, and as we learned last summer, that can take a very long time, but I don't know, hope springs eternal, I feel like, as we say. Kyle, what do you think? What's your best guess on budget timeline? I
mean, I'm hoping for our own good that it doesn't come out the week that this comes out, because Dawn will be gone.
So you'll do just fine if it passes when I'm not here. So I'll try not to have too much FOMO, but I don't think it's going to happen when I'm not here to write those stories, as we'll all be doing. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about legislation working its way through the legislature and our picks for headliner of the week. We'll be right back.
This message is sponsored by Duke Energy. Duke Energy is meeting North Carolina's growing energy demand through a stronger, more resilient grid. That's why we're making strategic infrastructure improvements and implementing self-healing technology to avoid outages and minimize disruptions, all while keeping costs as low as possible. To learn more, visit duke-energy.com/NC Future. This message is sponsored by Duke Energy.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with Esther Frances and Kyle Ingram. We were talking about bills that are moving and not moving as we wind down the legislative session. One this past week was an elections bill that seemed like it was being fast-tracked and going to be voted out, and then it wasn't. So what's going on with that, Kyle?
Yeah, it's going through a lot of changes. This is one of those moments where it appears there's actually some bipartisan collaboration going on. This got rolled out last week as you're listening to this. It's a 37-page elections bill that does a bunch of different unrelated things in it.
From which chamber?
From the House.
From the House, okay.
It's got at least 40 different policy provisions in there. We can't sit through and go through all of them. But even when it got to its first committee hearing in House election law, they did take some amendments from Democrats at the beginning of the committee, or the amendments that Democrats had suggested. And while there had initially been a thought that it was going to go to the floor for a House vote on Wednesday, they pulled that, and Democrats have said that they are working to make some changes to this bill. But where it stands now, as we're recording this, is that some of the key provisions include banning all election officials from encouraging voter turnout, not just making partisan statements or advocating for a certain candidate or party, but any sort of voter turnout encouragement would be banned.
Can they say it's election day, you should go vote, or no?
That's the sort of questions people had in committee. It's how do you really define encouraging turnout? Some election directors reached out and said, would I be encouraging turnout if I posted the early voting schedule? So it seems hard to enforce, and that's something that I believe that there are conversations happening about revising. You also see in there that it's expanding the State Board of Elections' ability to hire private lawyers to handle their litigation. In North Carolina, we deal with a lot of election-related litigation, and typically that would be conducted by DOJ attorneys who are paid by the state, but this is giving them more power to bring in outside lawyers and who would be less subject to public records requests with what they're doing and how much they're being paid. One of the other provisions that has gotten a lot of attention is the fact that it would empower the Republican state auditor to select counties of his choice after an election and audit their election conduct. It says in the bill that the findings of his audits would not be able to be used to challenge the results of an election, but it is something that's getting a lot of attention. Now, we did hear from a spokesperson from Bullock's office who claims that the auditor already has this authority and the bill would just require it, but we're not sure.
I feel like there was legislation in the past, 5 years or so, where some lawmakers wanted to look at local election boards after. And I remember they just talked about randomly picking Durham. And I remember the Durham lawmakers were displeased. I don't remember how that sorted out or if there's anything similar on that. So it was added to House rules and then it was taken out of rules, right?
Yeah, so it went through House election law, and then it was scheduled to go to rules. They took it out, and it wasn't added the next day. So right now, it would still need to go to rules, and then to the floor. And the sponsor, Representative Hugh Blackwell, has said this is a work in progress, and he's open to working with Democrats on it. I know Representative Pricey Harrison, a Democrat from Guilford County, has been very involved in trying to make some changes on this. And we don't even know what the Senate thinks about this. We asked Berger, and he said he wanted to, sort of keep his cards close to his chest until they saw a final draft because so many things are still in the works here. So we'll see. And there's always the possibility as well that none of this ever makes it to a floor vote and the Senate and the House just work together behind closed doors to decide what they can agree on and roll that into the budget document.
They could also, the House could send it to the Senate and the Senate could say, we don't like this. We're going to, someone made the joke, add some gifts into it and send it back to the House, and then the House won't like that. And then if they have conferees and come up with something new. And I guess we're running out the clock. So depending on not that the clock actually runs out since there's no law with an adjournment date, but assuming that they want to go home at some point in July for, at least a month or something before they come back again for anything else that they want to do. It could be like, let's get this in the budget because there's not an agreement and, just be like, fine, I'll take it, as part of these final negotiations between Berger and Hall, maybe.
Well, one potential signal as to where the Senate's thinking is that some top senators filed a bill just last week that just cuts and pastes the portion about the post-election audits by the state auditor and makes that its own separate Senate bill. So none of the other, dozens of provisions from the massive elections bill are included. It's just that one. So maybe that's the only thing they're interested in. We don't know.
The auditor's agency bill also moved this week, and that includes allowing the auditor to work with SBI, work with the Conference of DAs for prosecutors. And again, that's the House side, the Senate. A lot of times, this past week when we asked Senate Leader Berger, what do you think about this House bill? He's like, I'm the Senate leader, so, there's still until it gets floats all the way to the top and is moving, there's maybe not a lot of interest there and what there is in the weeds going on, I think. So, one other thing that I thought to note with timing and schedules is that the election is in November. There are 2 constitutional amendments on it about capping the income tax and telling the legislature to instill a levy limit on property taxes. And Speaker Hall said this past week that they could actually have a session in November post-election or December that would have some sort of movement on the constitutional amendments. Hall is open to that on property taxes. Berger told me he doesn't think there would really be enough time for that because if these sessions come, they're usually just like a couple of days at a time. And because everyone's been talking about property taxes for so long, you might need more of a time investment. But I think really what we'll be as reporters and as the millions of North Carolinians who are impacted by what the legislature does is if, depending on how things go in the election, right? Because Republicans have a supermajority in the Senate, close to 1 in the House. And if they lose power in some way, they're going to want to finish up whatever priorities they have before the other party gains some sort of control, or if those total votes shift. So I think that's what we'll be looking for. And Berger, I think, quipped that, it wouldn't be Christmas without the legislature doing something around then. So we'll have a full post-election time, I think, during the off season of regular session. All right, let's move on to our picks for headliner of the week. Esther, I'll start with you. What's your headliner?
Definitely. I very recently saw Obsession, the new horror movie movie that's come out. It's not even new at this point. I feel like it was supposed to be out of theaters like around early June, and the box office success was so good that they just kept pushing it. I love things that are creepy and make you just look at it and go, ew, like I hated that. I love that kind of thing. I saw it very late at night too, so I really enjoyed that. I would highly recommend it to people who enjoy horror. It's a cool 90 minutes. I love a 90-minute movie. If it's 2 hours or more, I find I get very antsy with it, especially going and seeing it in theaters. So would definitely recommend.
I'm also a huge fan of Obsession, and I would co-sign all of that.
Perfect.
And it is worth seeing in the theater and not waiting till streaming.
I am not on the same movie genres as you. I like the summer blockbusters. I already saw Mandalorian and Grogu because I watched pretty much most of any sort of thing in the Star Wars franchise. So, all right. Well, sticking with fun summer stuff, my headliner of the week is baseball. And could a Major League Baseball team come to Raleigh, to North Carolina? That would be great. To Raleigh specifically, because of course that's where I live and where we're reporting from. That would be really cool. Governor Stein, Senate Leader Berger, both talked significantly with reporters this past week about their support of it. There's a long road ahead. You can read all of our NNO and Charlotte Observer sports coverage from the actual sports reporters that know a lot more about baseball than our politics sports crossover stories. But it looks like that maybe we'll see something in the budget, not money, maybe whatever kind of red tape needs to be adjusted to get baseball here a little sooner. Still love the Durham Bulls, of course, but I just like the idea of speculating on what one of you said, like, what if it was the Raleigh Acorns? Kyle. Esther, what would you want to call the team?
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. I'm not even sure. Acorns is it good? I feel like an animal though would be
City of Oaks,
nice
a squirrel.
Yes.
I don't know how, like,
Squirrels would be great.
Are they really that combative though? Are they going to
fearsome.
beat something
No,
else?
maybe not.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, Kyle, what's your headliner?
Well, sticking with sports, we all know the Carolina Hurricanes are Stanley Cup champions now, and just wanted to plug that the News and Observer is selling shirts that are commemorating the victory that show our front page from both the Stanley Cup victory this year and from all the way back to 2006 when it happened the first time. And we are also selling a book with our reporting and photos from all of the games. So go to newsobserver.com/store to find that.
All right, nice plug for all of our like full Canes coverage. Here at the NNO, everyone is all in, whether you're a longtime fan or bandwagon, which seems to, a lot of Canes fans welcome that too. All right, we're out of time for the News and Observer. I'm Dawn Vaughan with Esther Frances, Kyle Ingram, and producer Kevin Keister. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Under the Dome, sponsored by Duke Energy, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.